Screw all of the technical placement crap that usually comes with advertising. Today we're going to talk about the true roots of advertising. We're going to talk about creative, the fun stuff. So I'm going to show you how to build a campaign step by step. So let's get started. And for those of you listening in, you might want to go to YouTube and check us out there, or go to tylerwilliams.net because you can find the video posted there. It'll clue you in quite a bit on how all this stuff works, because then you can actually, see it. So I had a client ask about us making ads that basically advertised that he would take on the small jobs. No job too small is something that we see all the time in the plumbing space, right? But we can't be typical about it because then we never lift ourselves out of the noise. So what do you do? And so I'm going to show you what I made, how I made it, and why I believe, at least, that it's a step above what other people put out into the market. So of course, anytime a client asks you to do something, what do? Research. If you don't know what Facebook's ad library is, I highly recommend that you get acquainted with it. Just know that it's the perfect way to spy on an entire industry. So I typed in plumber, no job too small, and here is what I found running in the market. And honestly, most of what you see on ad platforms is the bottom of the barrel, because a lot of people spend a lot of time on the placement of their ads, but they don't spend a lot of time on arguably the hardest part, the creative itself. And I think that this is a little lazy, because it doesn't matter how good your placement is. If you are not appealing in the moment, you won't get the stickiness that you want out of your campaigns. And you don't have to be boring. You really don't. So here's some ideas. So what we have is no job too small. It's full of puns, just right there. Size matters, fun size, small equipment, small plumbers, things like that. But then it becomes, how do you take those concepts and how do you actually realize them into something that is interesting to look at in the first place? And that's where you gotta get a little bit creative. First of all, you don't use stock, because everyone else is gonna be using the same stock images. Best case scenario, you have your guys and you're able to take photos and craft images. You don't always have that option, and sometimes you've gotta create weird images to really stand out. So, what do? You get clever and you ask AI to fill in the gaps. So let me show you how to generate a scene like a pro. But before we get too far, please like this video, comment below, do me a favor and subscribe, because that helps me want to create more stuff like this for you. All right, so I used a myriad of tools, but the biggest ones that I used is going to be Dolly, which is infused with ChatGPT, and Midjourney. Both are paid AI image generators. And then you make a lot of images. A lot of images. So then I would bring those images in, and not every image is going to be a winner. You bring it into Canva and then you start combining them to create something unique, something different, something that the audience hasn't seen before. And now, if you wrap it in your branding, you end up with something like this. And this is a good Facebook image post. And so let's talk about this for just a little bit. Whenever you run an ad, you want your branding to act as a visual landmark. This is why brand is so important, and why, if your logo looks like everyone else's, it's really hard and more expensive to advertise. You want the user to be able to take in your company at a glance and know precisely who to attribute that impression to. And in this case, we want the user to have the impression that this company will take the smaller jobs that others won't. So we're building an association with our creative. And we're doing that because we don't want to play the Google game. We want this audience to wake up, see a problem, and run straight to our client. We don't want them to go to Google where they get a $60 click, because that's really expensive. Instead, we want to run these ads to people by the thousands. And that's why the creative needs to be on point, or at least different, because you have to be memorable for this to work. This sets you up not for the call of today. This doesn't fill a schedule today. But when you advertise to thousands of people with creatives like these, well, what you're doing is you're engineering your opportunity for down the road. Because that's what relationships are. And there's no competition if you control the psychology of the market. And so this is why creative is so important, and why a lot of you are spending money on ad campaigns that don't do anything, because you're going out with the least common denominator and you're just being a part of the noise in the marketplace. If you truly want to stand out and get calls and build a company, well, you got to be different. Think Different by Apple, they did that for a reason. So in the grand scheme of things, advertising like this is how you build big impressions, big brand, and eventually a big business. So I implore you all to not be small in your thinking. Be bigger, think broader, and advertise at scale with it. So it takes work. But if you do the thing that nobody else is willing to do, the work that no one else is willing to do, well, then you don't have any competition, and you win. Find out more about me and my crew by visiting my website.